Hello, Jake.
Hi, Keith.
How are you?
Yeah, not bad. How's it going?
Jolly good. So, we thought we'd come back today with our second of the series and actually theme today. And as I'm currently sat in a hotel room in Morocco, we thought we'd have a quick chat about some of our Morocco trips. And we've got 5 different ones. So, it gives us something to talk about with 6 different trips.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty jealous, to be fair, because I know you were just showing before we went on. You were showing me what it was like outside, and you know, yeah, feeling a little bit jealous as it's raining in Brentwood today.
Yeah, it's 20, 22, 23 degrees today, and the week's getting hotter. So that's quite nice.
Okay. Oh, you got visitors.
Yeah. So I've got someone just coming into my room. So that's always good for the start.
There you go.
So I'm lucky enough that I've done all of our Morocco trips. And I just love Morocco. I think it's I coined a phrase that Morocco gives you the biggest culture shock for the least amount of air miles. And nothing can be truer said than that, really. I think in terms of, what did it take us yesterday? 3 hours, 10 minutes to fly from Gatwick to get to Marrakesh.
Yeah.
It takes you longer to get to Tenerife than it does to get to Morocco. And obviously the difference in culture shock between Tenerife and Morocco are slightly different in terms of that.
Yeah, Marrakesh is always one of those markets that I sort of base everything else off. I mean, I went to Morocco, for the first time about 5 years ago, and yeah, it was one of the biggest culture, not shocks in a bad way, but it was brilliant, and the sights and the smells and all of that, all of that going on. It's yeah, you're right. It doesn't take you very long to make you feel like you're on a completely different planet.
No, I think it's, just arriving in Marrakesh yesterday, for people who have never been to Marrakesh before, it's such a different senses of everything. Like you've got the visual of it being really, really busy. You've got the smells of the food cooking in the square, just everything is. And last night, in comparison to other nights I've been here, the square was actually quite quiet. But for those people who have never been here before, it was the snake charmers were there, everyone was banging their drums, it was super busy. So yeah, I think it's properly something in terms of what's going on. Like everything is just happening. Like it's such a vibrant, busy place that people just they've got to experience it, really, haven't they?
Have you had anyone put the monkeys or the snakes around your necks? Or
No, I
like
did.
that
I did give them. I did give them the briefing yesterday of like there are no, unless you want to hand over your well-earned money, stay away from the snake charmers and the monkeys and everything else. So
Yeah.
And I think that's the nice thing in it, is that all of our trips do start from Marrakesh. No matter which trip you're on, they do start from Marrakesh.
Yeah, it's so I've done Toubkal, done bits around Marrakesh. Obviously, I'll be going to the Sahara in a couple of months. And yeah, the starting point for all of those, as you say, is Marrakesh. It doesn't matter which trip you do, you're going to fly into that hub, with the busy markets. And I just like going because there's so much stuff that I can bring back.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
you've got to be
I've
a
got
little bit careful sometimes. Like I was telling people that yesterday. Like we had a quick wander around the souks yesterday, and so I'm currently on the surf and yoga trip. So this morning we got up and we drove down towards Agadir, and we're about 25 minutes north of Agadir, and we're down here for the rest of the week, and then we drive back and then go back to Marrakesh for one more night before we fly home again. So we got here lunchtime yesterday and then had the afternoon in Marrakesh and then headed out this morning. It's a lot calmer and a lot more peaceful and tranquil down by the coast and less busy than it is in Marrakesh. But
so
yeah, the hotel where we're at is...
What have you got planned for the next couple of days?
So pretty much the itinerary on this trip is there's a yoga session every morning. There's a surf lesson every morning. The afternoons are then pretty free for people if they want to go and do more yoga classes or they want to go and do more surf lessons. We've got a trip arranged to go to Agadir for the afternoon to go and have a wander around Agadir. And then we've got a day trip up to Essaouira as well to have a day exploring Essaouira. And then on our final day, we've got and then on our final day, excuse me a second, let me just take that.
What you've done here, right, is you've called room service and you just don't want to admit it. So who have we got? We've got, I was having a quick look through, I see Simo's watching, he's waving. We've got Ram, one of our guides from Nepal. So that's all good. How are you? So we've got a few people. Obviously, Keith and I could chat for hours about, all the different trips that we do and things like that. But if you've got comments, if you've got questions, just pop them in, and we'll try and tailor it more to hopefully something useful to you. But so, what did you order? What was it?
There's nothing coming, unfortunately. I think somebody else has reported a problem with their phone that they then confuse with my room because my phone is obviously working because it rang right during the middle of a live Facebook. So no, I didn't order any room service. There's no beer coming for me to sit supping whilst I'm chatting here. People really don't. I think people don't believe us when we say we just sort of turn up and start chatting. But here you go. It's like I don't think either of us are quite sure what's going to happen. We've got Ben. We've got Sam, who I took to Nepal, is watching as well. So people started to comment in, which is really cool. Sean's just commented asking if it was room service. I haven't got a Amex card with me, so I couldn't put it on room service anyway. So, so if we look at the trips we do to Morocco, then we've got 2 Mount Toubkal treks. We've got the standard one, and then we've got a winter Toubkal trek as well, which is the plan of that one is always to go when we've got snow. So you will hopefully be using crampons, ice axes to get up to the summit of Mount Toubkal. The conditions this year were perfect for it. We've then got our Sahara Desert trek, which is one of my favorite trips to do. I think that is just so different to everything else that we do. Then we have our whitewater rafting in the Atlas Mountains, which I'm heading out for in a couple of weeks onto that one. So that's 4 trips. Then we've got the surf yoga one, which I am currently on. And then we've got our best of Nepal trip, which kind of covers everything off from Nepal. Morocco. Best of Morocco. Morocco. It's a time difference here. I'm jet lagged.
It's fine. Well, we have started having people comment in. So we have got Sam, who I took to Nepal's commenting in. We've got there was somebody else who popped up who said, "Can you talk through the hot air balloon experience in Morocco? It was one of my favourite experiences there after the Sahara trip."
Yeah. So as well as the 6 trips that we run to Morocco, we also have some extensions and some extras that you can book on. So Essaouira is a 4-day add-on that you can book onto after your trip and then go to the coast. Obviously, you probably wouldn't book that one if you're on the surf yoga trip because you're already just down the road. But if you're on any of the other trips into the mountains, then you can book the Essaouira trip. And then we also have a hot air balloon ride, which people can book onto, which doesn't extend the trip. It's just one of the options that we either do on the first morning or the last morning, where you can go and head up and have a hot air balloon experience. It's super popular. Like, people always seem to want to do the hot air balloon. And I would say probably half of every trip that we take out actually add on the hot air balloon ride. And the thing I like about the hot air balloon ride in Morocco is it never really gets cancelled due to the weather. Like, if you've ever tried booking a hot air balloon ride in the UK, the chances are, like, on the day you've booked it, I mean, I know people who've been given one for a birthday present and they finally did it 5 years later once they'd actually managed to get up, whereas you don't tend to have that problem in Marrakesh. It's a sunrise balloon flight, and then you get to see the sun come up over the high Atlas Mountains behind you. generally there's multiple balloons that go up at the same time. And I think that always gives it a really nice perspective when you are in a hot air balloon and you've got other hot air balloons around you. So I think, if you have got a hot air balloon ride on your bucket list and you are coming to Morocco, then it is a perfect opportunity to add that on really whilst you're here.
Yeah, I think it's always good to be able to tick off multiple bucket list items on one trip. If you're there, you kind of may as well, really. How many people can you get into the baskets with the ones in Morocco?
So there's 16 in the baskets in Morocco. So they're four sections of 4.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
So we've got Neil Horsley's come on, and he said that I highly recommend the winter Toubkal trip. It is fantastic. So
it is. I mean, to be fair, if you don't mind the cold, because it only really gets cold up in the mornings, I think it is my favourite way of climbing Toubkal as well as the winter one. I think I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, is that Toubkal and Morocco, because it is so accessible, like you say, it's the biggest culture shock you can get for the fewest amount of air miles. But doing something like Toubkal, if you take not quite a long weekend, but you take less than a week off, and you can come back and people go, well, what did you do with your week? And you can say, I climbed the highest mountain in North Africa. And there's not many people who say they can fit things like that in.
No, and I mean, I think I think it's worthwhile discussing, because obviously you can do Mount Toubkal in a weekend. We just don't offer that experience. So a lot of other trekking adventure travel companies, you can go and do Mount Toubkal in a weekend. You can fly out on the Friday and fly home on the Sunday and spend your time doing Mount Toubkal in that time. For me personally, we don't offer it because I think the success rate is quite low on it. You're coming in very quickly and gaining up to 5,200 meters in altitude within 2 days. I think that's slightly too quick to go and do a mountain and enjoy it. Our standard Toubkal is a 4-day trek, and I think that is the best way of doing it. You spend the first 2 days trekking in the Atlas Mountains. You don't see anybody else on the routes that we take. You get to go over a couple of high passes where you're nearing 3,000 meters. So you are adding in that altitude prior to your summit. So you'll climb up the passes, you'll drop back down to Imlil, and then you'll do the standard 2-day Toubkal. And I just think it's a much nicer way of doing it. You get to experience so much more, and the success rate is much, much higher from doing it that way. And you're just not rushing it.
Well, that's the thing. The success rate is higher, but as you say, you're not rushing it. You get to take in more of the culture, I think. And, and it's all the little stories that people get to pick up on who do go out, like, getting to buy fresh orange juice on the trail. There's still the guy that sells orange juice. He just squeezes them in front of you. And there's loads of other little stories that you can get, which,
Well, I mean, for example, when we do the first night on our Toubkal trek, we stay in a Berber lodge. The Berber lodge has a hammam, which is a washroom in essence. We phone up the lodge in the morning on the way up and say that we want to use the hammam. He goes out and throws a load of firewood underneath the floor and lights it, and it burns all day long. And then when you get there in the evening, you go in there in your swimming trunks and have a hammam in the middle of the Atlas Mountains. You don't do that on the 2-day trip. No. When we're in the Berber house, like the number of times I've slept out on the balcony outside looking up at the sky, and you just see shooting stars going over you. The sky is just literally littered with stars. There's no light pollution at all, and it's just an amazing experience. And it's little things like that, just by extending the trip. Like if all you want to do is go and climb Mount Toubkal, then by all means go and do the 2-day one. If you're used to being at altitude, there is no reason why you can't go and do a 2-day ascent of Toubkal. If you've already been up to Kilimanjaro and your body's all right at 5,800 meters, then you'll probably be fine. But if you kind of want to experience the Atlas Mountains and go trekking, well, then, don't rush it. You're probably not going to go back and do it again. So spend a bit of time doing it and enjoy it is kind of how I see it.
I think that's always been the one for me, is that for the sake of adding an extra day on, or a couple of days, like there's so many people you aren't going to do it again, really. So as you're there, you may as well make the most of it. And, and that's why I like.
We had a lady, 2018, I think. We literally, we didn't manage to summit on that trip because the weather was so bad. Like it was, gale force winds. It was, there was just no way we were going to the summit. So we turned around and came back down. And she went back out a few months later and just opted to do the 2-day one and said, she's never felt that ill ever. Like, she was like, I just want to go and do it now and say I've ticked it off. And then, when we spoke to her afterwards, she was like, yeah, it wasn't a wise move.
No.
So, yeah. I mean, Tom Lloyd's just jumped on. Hello, Tom. Hope you're well. Of all the places I've been with you guys, and I will say, Tom, I think you are currently our second highest bucket lister in terms of the amount of trips you've done. I think I've got the number one. I think I've got on the trip with me this time. So I think you're number 2 currently, but you still haven't been to Morocco yet, which surprises me really. The amount of we've got 6 trips to Morocco. You've probably done about 7 so far, and not one of them you've done to Morocco yet. So you need to get booking, Tom, and decide which of the 6 you're going to do. So keep watching this episode and we might make your mind up for you. But then obviously we've got the Sahara Desert Trek. I mean, that, like I said earlier, is just one of my absolute favorite trips.
So do you want to maybe talk us through why that's your favorite, apart from obviously you being able to start the year off and finish the year with a good tan?
Yeah, I mean that. But then I changed it because we had an Easter Island trip in. So I go to the Pacific in winter now in January. So let's change that. I think it's because I never realized quite how much I like deserts. I've kind of got a thing for deserts now. And I think it's also that I don't like people very much. So actually being in a desert, you're the only people that's there. Like we literally, every time I've done the Sahara Desert Trek, I've never seen any other trekkers. I mean, there is a funny story because we did see someone else on that trip. And it was the funny story was one of the girls said, I really need a wee. And I'm like, well, there's a bush there. Like there's nobody around us for miles. Just go and crouch under that bush and we'll carry on walking and, you'll be fine. And then a guy came cycling down past her. And he's basically, his bucket list is to cycle the whole of the Sahara Desert. And we sat chatting to him for about half an hour. Right. And every year he just pieces a bit more. So he's not doing it in one continuous go. He basically started it. And then on his next 3-week holiday, he goes and starts where he left off last time and then continues to do a bit more. And his bucket list is to have cycled the whole of the Sahara Desert. So unfortunately, the one person that I think was in the area of the Sahara Desert we were that day actually rode past her while she was having a wee behind a bush. But I love the fact that there is, you don't see anybody, you see Berber people who are living in the desert, who are looking after their animals, who are, for the last couple of times we've been, some people have been living in the same spot and you get invited in for a cup of tea with them and they show you where they're living. And like, it's super fascinating to kind of just be part of that for a few minutes. I love the fact that there's no light pollution, the fact that you can, you sit out at night looking up at the sky. And again, it's just, shooting stars going over your head. Yeah, I mean, just the things. Obviously, we do it with camels. So you have camelteers coming with you who, they're carrying all of the tents, the food, your bags, like all of that's being carried on camels. The camelteers, the men driving the camels, they know the area so well. We were there the last time I was there, like one of the camelteers dug a hole, lit a fire, and then started making some bread, put it in the sand, covered it with sand, and left it for 20 minutes, like brushed the sand off. And then there was like perfect loaves of bread in the sand. And you were like, yeah, I'm not really too keen on that. Like, I don't really want a mouthful of sand, but there was literally like no sand in it. It was the best bread I have ever had. It was just amazing.
So clever.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the sunrise over the dunes, seeing the sunset over the dunes, you know, looking at the dunes, and like, you know, we normally have 12, 16 people on a Sahara trek. You know, you go and climb the dunes, you know, there's footprints all over them. You get up in the morning and the footprints have just disappeared, where it's just constantly moving all the time. Yeah, you know, and if you know, not everybody wants to climb a mountain. Some people like trekking. Some people want to go and explore places, but they don't physically want to go and climb a mountain. And, you know, the Sahara Desert Trek is still a challenge. There's just no mountains to climb in it. And for some people, that's, you know, they didn't have it this year because they had a really dry winter. But the previous times that I've been out and done it, like we've camped next to an oasis, and then you get into camp that evening, you put your shorts on and you go and have a swim in an oasis in the Sahara Desert and have a wash. Like, where can you know, there's frogs just like jumping. Like, it is just, you know, I mean, the food that they put, you know, the food that the cooks prepare you in the middle of the Sahara Desert, which is everything they are carrying on a camel. Like, you know, you end up eating 3-course dinners every evening. You think, how the hell are you guys cooking this for us? Like, you know, it's just an amazing trip, and one that I think, you know, if you've done Mount Toubkal, you could go and do the Sahara Desert Trek, and you could go to Morocco twice quite easily. You know, and I just think because, you know, if you look at most of our Morocco trips, they're all around the sort of, well, Whitewater's a 6-day trip. This surf yoga one's an 8-day trip. Toubkal's an 8-day trip. The Sahara's a 9-day trip. The winter Toubkal's a 9-day trip. And the best of Morocco is slightly longer, 12, 13 days, I think, off the top of my head. But for the majority of our Morocco trips, you can kind of get them done with 5 days worth of leave from your holiday.
Well, yeah,
so that makes a massive difference.
So yeah, 5 days annual leave, maybe 7, but yeah, it's completely achievable to go to just the other side of the world. Really, I mean, I know it isn't that far away, but it really does feel like it, and you can achieve so much in that time.
Yeah, I think, you know, in terms of and I think as well, you know, for a lot of people, they do think about climbing Kilimanjaro, or they think of climbing or going to Everest Base Camp, and the trekking at altitude worries people. Obviously, from the UK, it's very difficult to know how your body is going to feel at altitude, how the altitude is going to affect you. So, you know, I always say to people, like, you know, and also it's a big commitment to go and spend, you know, £3,000 to go to climb Kilimanjaro or do Everest Base Camp. It's not a cheap thing to go and do. So why not go and spend, you know, £800 and go and do Toubkal and know how it's going to, you know, it's similar, you know, it's similar altitude to trekking in the Alps. And you also get far more done as well, in terms of you get that bucket list tick of going to Marrakesh. You know, there's so much more that you get on that trip than just going and climbing Mount Toubkal.
Okay, so if climbing mountains isn't your thing, if trekking through the desert sounds like sand in too many places it shouldn't be, then I think the whitewater rafting trip that you've got coming up is quite a good balance, actually, and that's something that I'd be really keen to go on. Just saying.
Yeah, I think I mean, would you class it as hard adventure, or would you class it as soft adventure? I mean, it depends on the water levels, really, I suppose. But it's a trip.
Sean can comment in. There you go.
Yeah, I've brought it in. I've brought in hard and soft adventure into the thing. But yeah, it's a trip that anyone can go and do. it is quite strenuous, whitewater rafting. They are not long days paddling, but when you are paddling, you have actually physically got to paddle. Like you can't just sit there and enjoy the ride down the rapids.
Are you not the captain at the helm? I just got an image of you with one foot on the front of the boat standing up.
No, I'm generally at the back, to be fair.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's in the Atlas Mountains. We arrive in Marrakesh. You get to see the whole Marrakesh side of things. Excuse me. Jump into a 4x4 and head up to the High Atlas, and then spend 2 days whitewater rafting back down, and then back to Marrakesh for a night. Sleep again, camping out under the stars, staying in Berber lodges when the night before we start the paddle. Eating Moroccan food, which we haven't mentioned the food, but it's one of my favorite things to come to Morocco for, is the tagines in the spices in the market, and so
food. You know what? Love
yeah,
it.
I think it's
such a massive part of the culture and of the country.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, if you like bread, like you'll eat a lot of bread. Like you get bread with everything. But
I was a bit nervous the first time I went. I was a bit nervous because I was like, well, I don't love super like hot, spicy food, and I'd heard that the Moroccan food was really spicy and things like that. But when I got there, I realised that spice was in the flavour.
Not in the heat.
No, exactly. It was just
different
flavours and tastes and all that sort of that I'd never had before, and it wasn't.
Well, that surprised me, Jake, because you eat anything, so it surprises me that you
I know, no, I did. That was before I started working for you. That's what it was.
So I mean that trip ticks all the boxes, and again, you can get that one done in a week. You only need a week's worth of holiday, and you can fit that one in.
So I suppose that kind of ties quite nicely in there. So we've spoken about the mountains, we've spoken about the deserts, we've spoken about if you don't fancy climbing and trekking loads, then there's the whitewater rafting. But that takes us quite nicely on to where you are at the moment, which is if you fancy something a little bit more relaxing with your annual leave, and you still want to soak up all of the culture of Marrakesh and catch a bit of the sun and all that sort of stuff, but you don't fancy hiking and climbing or falling out of boats.
Hard adventure.
Hard adventure. There's the answer. So, what can they do? What's the trip that you're on? What are you doing at the moment?
Yeah. So the idea of this one was to have a bit of a chill out week, and for people to be able to experience new things. Now, it's not necessarily if you've done yoga before or if you've surfed before, you can still come out and do it again. It's not just for beginners. But, we have really structured it in terms of lessons for beginners as well. So where we're staying is it a surf resort. They've literally just finished the African Surfing Championships here yesterday. No, Sunday they finished. And it's just a lovely time of year to come away. Like March in the UK, as you said earlier, it's raining in Brentwood. There was a weather window. There was a weather warning for snow. It's 25 degrees here. It's a nice breeze to keep you cool. And again, we've added in the other experiences of visiting Agadir, of visiting Essaouira for a day. And there's still plenty of stuff to do. So there's plenty of free time in this trip. So if people want to chill out, people want to do more yoga, more surfing, they can do. But yeah, it's just like a more of a come away and try some new activities trip, and get to experience things you may not have tried before, but also come to Morocco and do it. Get out of the UK in March, which is for some people is always a nice thing to do. But yeah, I mean, it's the perfect trip for that. It's the perfect trip for people who want to, just have that week away, try some new activities, see Morocco. You get to see two parts of Morocco. You get to see the Marrakesh, and then you get to see the coast and all the towns down the coast. So yeah, I think it's unfortunate because this trip was first due to go in 2020, and obviously that didn't happen for for reasons that we won't mention. And then it's kind of not been able to happen since. So this is since we've launched this trip, this has been the first time we've actually been able to run it. So I came out and looked at the hotel and everywhere in 2019. But like I say, this is the first time we've actually managed to get a trip out here and do it. So
it does look like a really nice hotel.
Oh yeah, this is it's very nice. It's not luxurious, I would say, but if you were having a week's holiday, you would be very happy if you were staying here. It's got a lovely little bar on the beach. The sun sets right by the bar. It ticks all the boxes if you want to come away and have a relaxing, but yet again, try new activities. If you've never surfed before, we've got a stand-up paddleboard lesson at the end of the week as well. So if you want to try stand-up paddleboarding, you can do that as well. So yeah, it's just I just think it's a really nice trip, and one that I think, like you say, for people who don't want to go and climb mountains, don't want to go trekking through the Sahara, they still want to come away and do some activity on the trip. They don't just want to go away and sit by a pool for a week. Then this trip kind of ticks all those boxes, really. There's chance to explore, there's chance to do activities, and you've still got some time that if you want to pick up a book and sit and read it by the pool, you can do that as well.
It sounds amazing. And I think, for lots of people, surfing will be something that's going to be on their bucket list, trying something new, maybe getting into that yoga side of things more as like a New Year's resolution. And actually, if I am going to pick up surfing for the first time, where better to do it than somewhere that's warm?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I'll let you know next week if I can touch my toes. I'm super excited to see after a week of yoga if I can actually touch my toes.
There you go. We've got a little sweepstake going on in the office, so just save it for the end.
All right, I won't give too much away.
Brilliant.
And then finally, then we've got the best of Morocco. Which is part of our best of series, which kind of takes everything that Morocco has to offer, and you get to see all of it. And as part of that trip, you go to Fez, you go to Chefchaouen, which is the blue city, which if you've ever seen the photos is the ones where all the houses are blue. You get to come down to the Sahara, you get to go to the Todra Gorge. You get to go to the Atlas Mountains, and then you finish up in Marrakesh. So you kind of take it all in as you go, really. So, again, not very much as in trekking to be done. There's plenty of walking around because you're doing a lot of sightseeing and seeing a lot of stuff. But there's no multi-day treks or anything like that. It is all just having a wander around and exploring in like, as the name suggests, it's, as we think, it's the best of Morocco, of all the best things to go and see. So, if that's more your style of trip and you want to explore that way, then our best of trips, we always try and add some, there's always activity in there, but it's just not always, multiple days trekking or things like this.
Yeah, I think it's, Morocco is one of those places where you can just keep coming back and seeing completely different sides of it, and it does have so much to offer that there's no reason why you couldn't go on several different trips. But yeah, if multi-day trekking and hiking is your thing, then it's got loads to offer. The Atlas Mountains are still some of the most amazing mountain ranges I've ever seen, and then all the way through to the best of and the surf and yoga. So I'm going to try and tick my way through them all.
See, Tom Lloyd's come back. The best of Morocco sounds an amazing trip to go on. So keep an eye on in the office in a minute. There'll be a ping and the bell will go off when Tom Lloyd books his next trip onto the best of Morocco.
Love that.
So that's kind of Morocco in a nutshell, really. I mean, we've got six great trips that offer, each one slightly unique in itself, offers something completely different. You could probably come and do 4 of those trips and not get bored of coming to 4 or 5 of those trips and not get bored and still see different things all the time. I was in the square last night in Marrakesh, the most amazing sunset. And I've seen lots of sunsets in Marrakesh, but last night again, it was like, oh, it was amazing just to sit there for 20 minutes and watch the sunset and see all the colors in the square and listen to all the hustle and bustle. And, I've probably been to Marrakesh 20 times now, and
yeah,
I still enjoy coming back to Marrakesh and wandering around the souks and experiencing it all. And so
I don't think it will ever get old. And actually, even though I'm not there, I have really enjoyed seeing all of the Instagram stories that's being put up at the moment, from where you guys are out in the square, and the pictures that you posted, but also on our Instagram pages, the bucket list one that Hannah's doing a great job of recording.
Right. Who's just commented Skybar?
Like
someone, huh?
I was going to say, are we going to place a bet? But I would almost put money on it being one of the Farr brothers.
Yeah. So it must be in the group that you're monitoring, because it's not in my group.
Is it? Oh no, there we go. Hang on, I've got it wrong. Sarah Bond. There you go.
Okay, Sarah. Blimey, Sarah.
Sorry. There you go. I thought
you've done an injustice to the Farr brothers then.
I'll take it back. There you go. I'll have to.
To be fair, we did go to the Sky Bar yesterday, funnily enough, which is like where so when we're in Marrakesh, we stay in a riad right in the middle of the Medina, of the old town, and it's it's really easy to find, because some of the riads are down windy back lanes, and the one that we use is super easy to find. And then obviously in the Medina, generally no alcohol is allowed to be served in the Medina, but it's starting to there are places you can go and find a drink in the Medina. And the closest one to the riad that we stay in is actually the Sky Bar. And I went in there yesterday, and just to show the group, obviously, where if they wanted to get an alcoholic beverage, that this is the place that you need to come to. And
only if you really wanted to. It's not,
And to be fair, like they've done it up really nicely. Since I was last here, it's really nice in there now, and it's got a lovely roof terrace, looks over the square. It's, but generally it's where our groups frequent when they finish their treks and they come back to celebrate that they've done it. Is you'll know where our groups are going.
I think that's one of the things with it depends on which country you go to, but there's always little places like that everybody can sort of bring up in 5 years' time and still have a good laugh about. In Morocco, it's the Sky Bar. Nepal, you've got the curry houses like the Third Eye that we'll take people to, and there's a few of the bars around Kathmandu as well.
But it's just very bad that when you walk into places that they recognise you, even if you've not been there for 8 months. That's the and I had that twice yesterday in Marrakesh. So yeah, it's I did in Las Salama. They recognised me in the restaurant that we generally I take groups to, which is a lovely rooftop Sky Bar restaurant. And then I also had it in Sky Bar as well, where they recognised me when I walked in, which I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing, but
well, there's the restaurants that they'll recognise you in, and there's the bars that they'll recognise you in. But did I tell you about when I went back to Nepal? I'd been at the beginning of the season, and then I went in the October, so towards the end, and I was walking through Kathmandu, and I had one of the tuk-tuk drivers flag me down because he recognised me. It was, I think you know who I'm talking about as well.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, it's
wow. Big grin on his face.
It is lovely when it happens, and as long as it happens for the right reason, that's all fine.
Yeah, of course.
But if you are, I mean, we've had someone's commented saying they're coming out to Toubkal in March 2024 with us, and they cannot wait. And we cannot wait to take you out to Toubkal in 2024. And Toubkal is, I would say, one of our it's one of our most popular trips, I would say. And I think purely that is down to two reasons. One is price, and the other one is duration of the trip and what you can achieve in that short time. I know we put our prices out for 3 years almost when we're launching our next year's prices. And, if you look at Toubkal for October 2025, for example, you can you could buy that now and be paying £30 a month to pay your trip off. And I know it seems a long way away, but that is going to come around quite quickly. But also, like, you know, for £30 a month, you could be paying for your next trip and not really noticing it going out your bank account. And then it will come around and go, oh, I've already paid for that trip to Mount Toubkal. And that's what a lot of people say to us, is they book things so far in advance. But
well, it goes out. It's, you know, it's almost cheaper than a phone bill, depending on.
Well, it's a lot cheaper than my phone bill. I'll tell you that now.
I was going to say it's cheaper than mine after the conversation.
After EE put their prices up for you. Hello, Kitap. Kitap has joined the group. Kitap here watching. Kitap is one of our Nepalese guides who is going to be very busy over the coming weeks, because we've got quite a few groups heading out to Nepal, and they will be guided by Kitap and his team out there. So
I'm
great to see you are
with Kitap. We're going and doing the Gokyo Lakes. So yeah, Kitap and I are going to spend a bit of time taking a group out around there. So that'll be good fun.
Love spending time with Kitap. Kitap's a brilliant guide. And Christina's just put, don't forget to mention the Cabana, which is a bar restaurant that I found last September, and told Chris about it when she took her Toubkal group out in October. And you get, again, a lovely view of the mosque, the main mosque that's just outside of the square. And
okay, well, I'm out next month, so maybe you might have to let me know where that is. And I think I've got 12 people on mine, so yeah, we'll go and pay a visit.
Yeah, so La Salama, Cabana, they're the two places that I enjoy going in and eating in. I also like going and eating in the Buddha bar as well, but you've got to take smart clothes to go in there. And whenever you're on a trekking trip, you can't really have time to fit your smart clothes in as well.
Was that your nice pair of shorts?
My nice pair of shorts and my new flip flops, my best ones. Right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in and joining us for our weekly The Bucket List Adventure Travel Show, which we are going to do weekly. And between me, Jake, and the rest of the team, there will be at least two of us here on every week, and we're going to choose a different topic to talk about. So obviously the new podcast comes out tomorrow, where again, unfortunately, they'll be listening to our voices again, Jake, because we went and talked about the Gokyo Lakes trip, actually, and talked about Gokyo and going on the Gokyo Lakes trip compared to just a standard Everest Base Camp trek. So that comes out tomorrow on your favorite podcast listener. So look up the Bucket Lister podcast and you'll find it on there. But as we've answered there's no other questions to answer, we're going to tune off. I'm going to go and enjoy the sunshine and maybe have a beer by the beach. Well, you enjoy the rain, Jake. So have a lovely time.
Thanks very much.
See you all next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.